The Torah is filled with marital advice. In fact, the book of Genesis is all about marriage relationships and sibling relationships, and many of them fail miserably. But the Torah is giving us lessons how to understand what relationships are. But the whole Genesis is filled with the story of marriage and siblings, families. You have Adam and Eve, right? Of course, you have Noach, you have Cain and Abel, the first two brothers, and they kill each other. And then it goes on. You have Noach and his relationship with his children, very complicated. You have the marriage of Abraham and Sarah, very fascinating marriage. And then, of course, you have the marriage of Isaac and Rebekah. You have the marriage of Jacob and Rachel, but then it turns into the marriage of Jacob and Leah. Then afterwards, he marries Rachel. And it goes on. You have Yehuda, Judah, and Tamar. Later, you'll have Joseph and his wife in Egypt. Asnas, her name is Asnat. Later, you'll have the marriage of Moses and Zipporah. And in each of these marriages, the Torah gives us tidbits, and sometimes clear, implicit, or explicit messages that teach us tremendous insights and depth into relationships. So I'll give you an example. When the Torah discusses the intimacy between Adam and Eve, the Torah uses a very interesting word. It's the first couple. The Torah says Adam knew Eve and she became pregnant. Now, you don't get pregnant from knowing somebody, but let's face it. So knowledge doesn't mean, Adam got her resume. Knowledge means intimacy. And the Torah uses the word knowledge. Adam yada et chava. Adam knew Eve, which means that intimacy is really knowledge. Intimacy is not just a physical act. It's really, really knowing the other person. Really tuning into the other person. That's a fascinating insight. How many of us spend the time to really, really know and experience the other person? Not just decide what we think about the other person or who they are, but really suspend all of our egos, all of our insecurities, and really tune into the other person. That takes a tremendous amount of courage and work. Another example is the first time the Torah introduces marriage, God says it's not good for Adam to be alone. I'm going to create a helper against him. A helper against him? I thought a helper is to help you, not to be against you. It's a fascinating sentence, and it's right there in Hebrew. Ezer kenegdo. All the commentators say if she's helper, she's not against him. A helpmate is here to assist you, not to be against you. An enemy is against you. And one of the most powerful interpretations that comes from the commentators and the Hasidic masters, it's actually the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad, says this, writes this. Also other commentators, that the Torah is describing her marriage. It's not good for Adam to be alone. What takes us out of our aloneness? What makes us not lonely in life? If you marry a spouse and you only talk about things that you both agree on, you're still alone. Because the parts that make you different from each other, you won't share with the other person. So, for example, a husband and a wife that tell themselves, I'm not going to share this part of me with him because he's going to explode. Or he says, I'm not going to share this part of me with her because she's going to run away from me. So they really remain lonely because much of their life they can't share. They can only share those things that they know the other person will agree with, or there won't be such a difficult response. So they remain lonely. You know what takes us out from our loneliness? When I could share with my wife things that are very, very vulnerable, that are scary. Things that make me lonely. I feel maybe I'm weird. I'm a nerd. I'm a geek. I'm a loser. I'm a shameful person. Those things that I am lonely, that I'm not going to display to the world. Can I share it with my spouse? Can my spouse share things with me where it's scary? In other words, things that can generate conflict because they trigger each other. And when we create space for those things, that's how we leave our loneliness. We're not lonely anymore. So the greatest helper is the helper who not always just says, yeah, of course, I agree with you. It's actually the one that challenges me. It challenges me to go much deeper, right? It's the spouse who may disagree with me. And then I have to, first of all, expand my horizons and also deal with that. And that's why, we talk about marriages being peaceful. We don't want conflict, which is beautiful. But many times we have to understand a good marriage embraces conflict. What do I mean embraces conflict is not that we appreciate when couples holler at each other and scream at each other and insult each other. Of course not. What I mean by embracing conflict is embracing the potentiality for conflict, embracing the fact that we may now have a conversation that may trigger you in a very, very deep way to the point that you want to run away from me. You know why? Because if you could stay there, we will not be lonely anymore. Embrace the fact that you may now bring up an issue that will be very, very difficult for me to hear. And instead of running away, I'm going to remain present. And then you won't be lonely anymore. I won't be lonely anymore. So, these are very powerful insights that the Torah intimates, that teach us so much about marriage.